There's a very interesting dynamic going on currently in the Bitcoin market, right? Bitcoin went down to 22K, but to me, it doesn't look like retail has already capitulated. Rather the opposite. Retail seems to be buying, and we can see this from different metrics. We can see this from on-chain data, but also from relative valuations, etc. So we've got a lot of things to discover. Let's jump right in. Over here, we've got the accumulation trend score by cohort. So this chart here is taken from the Glassnode newsletter. When you go to insights.glassnode.com, you will find weekly newsletters published by Glassnode. And in this chart here, which starts in September of 2021, we've got a split of who's buying and who's selling based on the size of the wallet, on the Bitcoin wallet size. So we start here off with small retail, right? Less than 1 Bitcoin per wallet, all the way up to the large, probably exchange wallets of more than 10K Bitcoin. And here on the right side, what we see is a score, as in when it's red, those kinds of wallets are selling. When it's blue, those kinds of wallets are buying. And this chart is a little bit outdated. So it had been compiled when Bitcoin was still at around 25K, so around 2 days ago. But still, it gives a very interesting picture. We can see that the small wallets, they are recently buying, they're accumulating since we are at around 30K in Bitcoin. We see this spilling over here to the exchange wallets, so that's also going up. And we see that the larger wallets, so what might be the family offices or other larger investors, they tend to sell. So those are the ones that are selling, probably because of the macro environment, right? The monetary tightening, people try to get out of risky assets, rising interest rates tend to push down tech stocks and also crypto because of the high correlation. And who's picking up the pieces? It's small retail. This does not look like a retail capitulation to me. And the reason for this might be the long-term Bitcoin charts, right? For example, the Bitcoin Rainbow Price chart to be seen at blockchaincenter.net. This is a chart that goes all the way back to 2012, where Bitcoin was just a few dollars, all the way to today on a logarithmic scale, right? So we can see here the 2018 crash that went from 20K all the way down to 3.5K. You can also see the Mt. Gox crash. And with the recent rally that didn't go all the way up to the upper band, we still see now we are entering the lower band. So there is a lot of potential hope that this might be a support around this level, right? After the 2018 crash, we didn't really go that much lower. We didn't hit the lower area of this band. We only went that low during the Corona crash. Now we are entering the band. The middle of that band is 19.7K. The lower side is around, let's say this delta is 7K or so. The lower band is around 13, 14K or so. Now there are a lot of markers, right, why retail is not currently panicking. And that's also when we look at the altcoin valuations. So this is something that was very surprising during this crash. Usually what happens is altcoins, they have more inherent leverage to Bitcoin. Meaning when prices go up, the altcoins tend to rise more. When prices go down, the altcoins tend to fall more, right? It's almost like a levered Bitcoin when you buy certain alts. When you now look at the list of those altcoins, right? In the last 7 days, Bitcoin and Ethereum lost roughly 30%. When we now scroll down over here, a lot of those altcoins, they haven't lost as much. Of course, we've got Tron that has lost the same, or Avalanche. But here, Shiba Inu has lost less. The FTX token only minus 12%. Chainlink only minus 24. So a lot of these altcoins didn't even lose as much as Bitcoin and Ethereum has. And that's surprising, right? They should lose even more. And we can look at this even in a more quantitative way. We can look at total 3, which is the cryptocurrency market cap minus Bitcoin's market cap and minus Ethereum's market cap. So basically the altcoin market cap. We can look at that number and set this in relation to the Bitcoin market cap, meaning how is the altcoin market performing relative to Bitcoin? And when we look at this upper line over here, this means 1. So the altcoin market cap was the same size as Bitcoin. Here at 0.5, the altcoin market was half the size of Bitcoin. And with this recent crash, the altcoin market gained relative to Bitcoin. So the altcoins lost less. So what does this mean? I think retail is mainly buying and selling alts, right? It's not those very large institutions. They mainly buy Bitcoin or Ethereum. They are more risk averse. So that's another indication that retail is rather bullish than bearish. And on another side note, so I was yesterday going to my over-the-counter dealer and dollar cost averaging into Bitcoin. So I bought more Bitcoin. I do this regularly. And I tend to do this when the markets are crashing because then you get cheaper prices. So I buy in order to hold this for many, many years. And I was just chit-chatting with him, right? I was asking, hey, what are other clients currently doing? How are they approaching the markets? Do you see people selling? Do you see more people buying? How is the activity going? And what he said is he hasn't seen that much activity for a long time. A lot of people come in and they all come in order to buy. So even the OTC people, right? If you've got relatively small retail that go and walk in maybe with cash or maybe with a bank transfer and that buy Bitcoin, they are now on the purchasing side. They are not on the selling side. I also asked him then actually what happened during the peaks over here. Did you see people selling over here? And he said that basically nobody was able to time the top. So he didn't see a lot of selling around here. Most people were too excited to get a 100K Bitcoin. So it's really important to take profits. Most people, they are able to buy low, but very few people are able to sell high. It's way harder to sell than it is to buy. That's just another side note, right? If you're considering to buy right now, on the way up, don't forget to take profits because it always looks like it's going to rise further and at some point it doesn't and then it might be already too late. That's hopefully a lesson in case you haven't taken any profits during the run that you're taking from this crash in case you're currently buying, which I hope you do, obviously, because over the long term, right, it doesn't look too bad of a price for Bitcoin. Now let's look at something a bit more intangible. Let's look at what is the current market psychology doing. And for that, I did 2 surveys within YouTube. So this is addressed to my YouTube audience, but I think it's relatively representative of the average investor or maybe the average well-educated investor. And what we see over here is I've asked the question, we got 685 votes. What have you done after the recent crash? So I wanted to know, in case it crashes further, is it then retail that's panicking? Is everybody putting their hands up and capitulating? And the answer is no, definitely not. So most people bought Bitcoin or didn't do anything. Look at how few people actually sold. So again, another indication, it's the large players. It's not small retail that's selling over here. The Bitcoin is moving from the whales to the small people, which I personally actually welcome a lot. I think it's great because with less institutional games around Bitcoin, we are likely going to see also a decreased correlation between the crypto markets and the traditional markets, which is great for portfolio diversification, right? Before, when you were buying tech stocks and you were buying Bitcoin, they would go up and down at the same time. At least this is what happened in the last few months. This might now reverse again if the institutional traders, they go out of Bitcoin, if it's only the retail crowd. Because the retail crowd, they are rather looking at something like this than at the interest rate environment and stuff like this. So I like to have low correlation across different assets in the portfolio. With low correlation, you can take more risk per initial or per individual investment, and more risk should also translate into more return over the long term. Now there's one more survey that I've run here, and that is, when would you give up on Bitcoin altogether, or at least for the foreseeable future? So is there a scenario where the cryptocurrency markets go down that much that you would say, okay, this is enough, Bitcoin has failed, I'm not going to invest anymore? And this is a point where I see a lot of people are probably not that experienced in crypto yet. They probably haven't seen the 2018 crash. They haven't lived through this. Because I can tell from the answers of this survey over here that most people probably are not self-aware enough of how they would actually react in a certain situation. So would you give up if Bitcoin falls below 15K? Some people do, but a lot of people wouldn't, right? Only 17%. Then we've got 19% that would give up on Bitcoin if it falls below 5K. So it would say, okay, Bitcoin has failed. It will probably not recover anymore. That would happen at 5K. very few people would say that if it falls even below 500. Now, if Bitcoin goes down to 500, it would have lost more than 99% from the all-time high. How many people do you really think are going to stick with Bitcoin and are going to stick with crypto when we have fallen that much? I think most people will just look for the next big thing. They're not going to look at crypto or at Bitcoin again if we see something like this, right? In such a scenario, a $500 Bitcoin, what would Bitcoin be? It would probably be outlawed by the major developed nations. It would probably be, again, some kind of a fringe asset for illicit activity. You would probably have to buy this somewhere in the back alley from someone. You couldn't just openly buy this. It's very unlikely that a $500 Bitcoin would correspond to a similar kind of industry that we're currently in, right? And then this is the surprising part of this survey. 48% said, I would never give up on Bitcoin, which is like a noble thing to say, right? It's like, great, would never give up on it. Bitcoin to the moon forever. But when we really think about this, right? When Bitcoin falls that much, would you really not lose your hope here? I think it's very likely you would, and I would as well. I think everybody has some kind of a threshold where would say, okay, this crypto experiment was very interesting for 10, 15 years. It was a nice attempt at fixing all of this. But when we see a destruction of capital to that magnitude, we probably have to find another solution. Then crypto is probably not it. But most people don't see it this way, at least in the current situation. So the way I interpret this is that people are simply not self-aware. I think if this would really happen, if Bitcoin would really fall that low, most people would actually say bye-bye to Bitcoin and to crypto in general. I think it's very unlikely that half of the people that are now in Bitcoin are still going to stick around during such a crisis. And then, of course, we've got, and this is another indication here, 4% that have already given up on Bitcoin, that say it won't recover, it will go to zero. 4%, right? Does this look like a capitulation from retail to you? It doesn't look like this to me. So really, it's a move from the big guys to the small guys. And I personally think it very much now depends on how much firepower are those small people going to have over the next years. Will the dollar cost averaging approach still be popular in 1 or 2 or 3 years? I will continue to do so. I will continue to dollar cost average. I will do so probably until 10,000 or so. That's my personal break point. If we then fall from 10 to like 5K, I'm probably stopping all of this. I'm not going to sell all of my Bitcoin, but I'm unlikely to dollar cost average further, because then we are really at a risk, in my opinion, that Bitcoin might fail altogether. But so far, my approach is simply to DCA in and to hopefully ride this continued upwards trend. Now, if you haven't yet liked the video, this would be very much appreciated. It will help the channel grow. It will help the video get more reach. So thank you for the like. And in case you're interested in contacting me directly, in getting daily market updates around Bitcoin, Ethereum, and various altcoins, then don't forget to check out thebitcoinstrategy.com. The link is in the video description. There's a lot of interesting exclusive content. There's also more information around this here in this video. So hope to see you in that video, and thanks for watching this one. Bye-bye.